The first cool wind of October swept through Maplewood, rattling the dry leaves against the sidewalks like restless bones. Fall here was never subtle. It roared in with bright bursts of orange maples, front yards transformed into graveyards, and the faint smell of cinnamon drifting from every coffee shop in town. Our neighborhood, Oakwood Lane, had always been the crown jewel of Maplewood during Halloween. Kids from other districts actually got driven over here because the decorations were legendary and the candy, king-size bars, not the puny fun size, was even better. Every house participated, except for the rare outlier who simply turned off their porch light. This year was supposed to be extra special for us. My daughter, Lily, was 8 years old, finally old enough to pick her own costume, carve her own pumpkin, and run through the streets giggling with her friends. She'd spent the last 3 weeks cackling in front of the bathroom mirror, perfecting her witch laugh. My wife and I had already hung fake cobwebs across the porch, and our 10-foot skeleton loomed proudly on the lawn. Then, Karen happened. Karen Hartley had moved into the white colonial at the end of the cul-de-sac just 6 months ago. At first, people tried to welcome her. Neighbors dropped off pies, kids brought her handmade cards. But from the very beginning, she made it clear she wasn't here to blend in. She was here to control. And Oakwood Lane had something she hated: fun. Noise ordinances, she muttered during the block barbecue in July. Trash cans left out longer than 24 hours. She wrinkled her nose at a group of kids riding scooters. Liability waiting to happen. When Karen ran for a spot on the HOA board, nobody thought much of it. Maplewood HOAs were mostly sleepy, collecting dues, maintaining the park, approving fence colors. But once she got her foot in the door, she showed her teeth. By early October, a letter arrived in everyone's mailbox. Dear residents of Oakwood Lane, it has come to the attention of the Homeowners Association that the annual Halloween activities pose significant safety hazards and property concerns. Decorations, large gatherings, and trick-or-treating will not be permitted this year on our street. Noncompliance may result in fines and other enforcement actions. Thank you for your cooperation. HOA Vice President Karen Hartley. The neighborhood buzzed like a hornet's nest. Parents were furious. Kids cried. Even Mr. Ramirez, the 70-year-old Vietnam vet with the scariest haunted garage setup in town, shook his head in disbelief. She can't just cancel Halloween, my wife whispered that night, clutching the letter. She thinks she can, I muttered, staring at the paper. But over my dead body. That was the moment I knew this Halloween wouldn't just be about costumes and candy. It was about standing up, for tradition, for community, and for my daughter's joy. And if Karen wanted a war, she was going to get one. The next morning, Oakwood Lane was buzzing, not with children's laughter, but with quiet outrage. Cars parked haphazardly along the curb, neighbors peering out windows with narrowed eyes, murmuring like a storm was rolling in. Karen's letter had lit a fuse, and it was only a matter of time before it exploded. I met my neighbors at Mr. Ramirez's house, the unofficial headquarters for Halloween defense. He leaned on his cane, peering over the brim of his wide-brimmed hat, eyes sharp. She's serious, he muttered. Last night, I saw her pacing the cul-de-sac, clipboard in hand. She's making notes, taking names. She can't do this, I said, trying to keep my voice steady for Lily, who clutched my hand beside me. Her small face twisted with worry. It's Halloween. It's tradition. It's magical. I don't care how magical it is. Karen's voice rang out from across the street like a judge passing sentence. She held up a yellow envelope and waved it at us. This is the law of the HOA. Any decorations left up after tonight will be cited. The audacity of it made my blood boil. Children peeked from behind curtains, candy buckets in hand, their eyes wide with fear. That afternoon, our usually quiet street erupted into action. A war room was formed in Mr. Ramirez's garage, with maps of the cul-de-sac, lists of decorations, and even a plan to legally challenge the HOA's mandate. Karen, meanwhile, walked the street with a frown so sharp it could cut glass. She measured pumpkins, scrutinized spider webs, and issued verbal warnings to anyone who dared leave a decoration outside. Neighbors whispered about her late-night meetings with a lawyer and rumors that she planned to fine everyone $500 per violation. The tension was tangible, like electricity in the air before a thunderstorm. By the end of the week, small acts of rebellion had begun. A couple of kids slipped a jack-o'-lantern onto their porch at 2 a.m., its candle flickering defiantly. My wife and I organized a stealth decorating night. Lights strung in the shadows, skeletons tucked behind hedges. Lily's laughter returned, tentative at first, as we watched her little pumpkin grin from the bushes. But Karen wasn't blind. She started posting signs on every lawn. No Halloween decorations allowed. And walking the street with a clipboard, ticking off houses like a grim librarian tallying overdue books. One evening, she cornered me near the mailbox. "You think you're above the rules?" she snapped. Her eyes narrowed, lips pressed tight. "I will enforce this. I will fine you. This is not up for debate." I squared my shoulders, trying not to tremble. "You don't get to steal our children's holiday," I said. "We're not asking for permission." Karen's smirk was ice cold. "Then we'll see who wins." By Friday, the tension reached its peak. Families whispered about whether to give in or fight. Halloween decorations became secret weapons, and whispers of a neighborhood revolt floated down the cul-de-sac. Every evening felt like a standoff. And Lily, now wide-eyed and determined, clutched her broomstick as if ready to ride straight into battle. Oakwood Lane was no longer just a street. It had become a battleground, and Halloween hung in the balance. Halloween night arrived like a storm breaking over Oakwood Lane. The sky was a deep indigo, heavy clouds rolling in, and the wind carried the scent of burning leaves and wood smoke. It should have been magical, but tension crackled through the air like live electricity. Karen was already out, clipboard in hand, walking with her usual precise, predatory stride. Every porch light she passed, every pumpkin she scrutinized, she left a little more fury in her wake. But the neighborhood had a plan. Families coordinated through text messages and whispered signals. We called it Operation Spooky Freedom. At precisely 6 p.m., almost every house flickered to life simultaneously. Orange lights, fog machines, animatronic skeletons, giant spiders, and ghosts swaying from trees. The cul-de-sac erupted in glowing chaos. Karen gasped audibly from across the street. Her clipboard rattled, and she shouted, "This is not allowed. You'll all be fined. Turn them off." She stormed forward, but our defenses were ready. Children with flashlights darted from yard to yard, guiding trick-or-treaters safely, while parents blocked her path with strategically placed hay bales and large pumpkins. Lily ran ahead, her little broomstick clenched tight, letting out a triumphant cackle that echoed down the street. "You're not going to ruin this," I yelled, stepping in front of Karen as neighbors gathered around. She froze for a second, momentarily stunned by our united front. Her eyes flitted from one glowing jack-o'-lantern to another, then narrowed in fury. "What is this? Some kind of mutiny?" she spat. "I am the HOA. You will comply." "Not this time," Mr. Ramirez shouted from his porch, holding a fog machine like a weapon. "You don't get to take our Halloween away." The street became a chaotic swirl of laughter, lights, and screams of delight as fog enveloped Karen like a haunted mist. Children shrieked in terror and excitement, dashing past her as she waved her arms, trying to assert control. Our neighborhood had turned into a cinematic battlefield, skeletons swaying eerily, witches cackling, and pumpkins glowing ominously, all while Karen stumbled through the fog, helpless to stop the tide of joy. And then, as if fate had decided to join us, the streetlights flickered and went out. Darkness fell for a brief heartbeat, broken only by the flickering lights of candles and lanterns. Karen's screams of frustration echoed eerily, making her seem less like an authority figure and more like a character trapped in a horror story of her own making. At that moment, Lily ran to my side, face glowing with candlelight, eyes wide and sparkling. "We did it, Daddy. Halloween is safe," she shouted, spinning in delight. The neighborhood erupted in cheers. Karen, defeated, stormed back to her house, slamming doors, her clipboard abandoned on the sidewalk. It was over, at least for this night. Oakwood Lane had won, and Halloween had been reclaimed. The triumphant, chaotic laughter of children and the warm glow of jack-o'-lanterns filled the street. For one night, magic had overcome bureaucracy, and community had triumphed over control. By the time the last trick-or-treater had disappeared into the night, Oakwood Lane was quiet again. The fog machines hissed their final breaths, and the skeletons and ghosts swayed gently in the soft autumn breeze. Families lingered on porches, sipping cider, sharing candy, and exchanging stories of their triumph over Karen's overreach. There was a tangible sense of pride and relief that only comes from defending something you love. Lily sat on the front steps, pumpkin candle flickering in her lap. Her tiny face, streaked with sweat and a little smudge of chocolate, glowed with pure happiness. She leaned against me, whispering, "Daddy, we did it. We saved Halloween." I smiled down at her, ruffling her hair. "Yeah, kiddo, we did. You were brave tonight." Around the cul-de-sac, neighbors gathered in small clusters, patting each other on the back, sharing hugs, and laughing at the absurdity of it all. It wasn't just about candy or decorations anymore. It was about community. Every lit jack-o'-lantern, every foggy yard, every tiny witch cackle was a victory. We had reminded ourselves that tradition, joy, and togetherness mattered more than rules enforced by a clipboard-wielding tyrant. Even Mr. Ramirez, leaning on his cane with a triumphant grin, admitted that the neighborhood had outsmarted Karen. "She thought she could break our spirit," he said. "But Oakwood Lane isn't just a street, it's a family." As for Karen, she stayed inside for the rest of the night. Some neighbors whispered that she had called the HOA board to report violations, but there was no way to enforce her threats during the night of sheer chaos and community defiance. By the next morning, she avoided the street entirely, leaving her lawn bare and her house eerily silent. It was as if the Halloween energy had scared her away. Lily's eyes sparkled as she recounted her favorite moments. The skeleton that nearly scared Karen, the fog that swirled like ghosts around the pumpkins, and the collective laughter that had drowned out authority. "Next year," she said firmly, "we make it even bigger." I nodded, realizing that her joy was more contagious than any fear Karen could impose. Walking home that night, I felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. The air was crisp, the leaves crackling underfoot, and the street hummed softly with the lingering energy of celebration. It wasn't just Halloween we had saved. It was the right to gather, to celebrate, to create memories without fear of arbitrary rules. In the end, Maplewood's Oakwood Lane had done more than just win a holiday battle. We had reminded ourselves of the importance of standing up for what matters, of protecting joy, and of the power of unity in the face of overreach. And as Lily drifted off to sleep that night, clutching her broomstick like a trophy, I knew that this Halloween would be remembered, not for the candy, the decorations, or even the fear, but for the magic of community. The war with Karen might not be over, but for one night, laughter triumphed, lights glowed, and Oakwood Lane had reclaimed its soul. Halloween, as it should be, had survived, and we had survived it together.